If we don't have a planet that can sustain us, everything else becomes unimportant.
Climate change is a root issue for exacerbating other issues. Poor and vulnerable communities, communities of color, indigenous communities are so much more affected.
The thing that really started me thinking about climate change was the Ethiopian famine. Once you see something like this, you can't unsee it.
When I was in 8th grade, we learned of a proposed development of a Marriott on Lake Minnewaska. The community group was able to convince the state to purchase the property, and it's now a state park. And I think that experience both showed me the importance of the natural world and showed me the power of community organizing, of small groups of people really being able to make a difference.
I do remember my grandmother, who lived through the Depression. She had in some drawer a big ball of string. Every time you'd go to the bakery or the grocer, you'd come back with whatever, and it had string anyway. So she would take the string and wouldn't throw it out because it's useful. And she'd accumulate a big ball of string because you might need it for something.
I grew up in 70 acres of land in southern Wisconsin. I have an image of myself sitting in a particular spot across a small valley from our home by the edge of the woods and the marsh below, but I could still see the house. And to me, that image of being close but far and being in the natural world, I feel that that's sort of like a place of being rooted for myself.
Baal Shem Tov, who was a storyteller and a rabbi, and he talked to trees, and he was teaching people wisdom from trees and from nature, and I kind of like that, so I got interested in Judaism again.
In a certain amount of time, we're not going to be able to give the next generation what they need to survive.
Climate change is not just a matter of making the climate warmer, but it's also making it more erratic, less predictable, weirder.
I took a pilgrimage and sleeping outside, that Zika was an uprise and triple E. And I'd had Lyme scares before. It was terrifying.
We used to have snow in winter. You can't count on that.
The drought, like last year it was really dry. You know, I can plant earlier in the spring than I used to be able to, and things tend to survive longer into the fall.
If we don't form a collective intention to take care, woe be unto us.
You are not obligated to complete the work, but you cannot stop from doing it.
The Jewish imperative, just tikkun olam.
Concept of tikkun olam, repairing the world. It's one of the pillars of Jewish values.
Also the command to pursue justice. Tzedek Tirdof.
200 of us moved our Yom Kippur services to the steps of the Lincoln Memorial so that we could support the Pope in his encyclical about climate change.
We have to keep interrogating the problem and interrogating ourselves as how we can be the best part of the solution.
There's the domino effect. If I put trash into the ocean, what happens to the fish that encounter that?
The deleterious, the harmful, the awful effects of climate not only falls disproportionately on those of lower income, it falls disproportionately by race.
There's no such thing as independence. Everything literally is connected.
How we live, how we eat, how we shop, how we educate ourselves and our children are all going to affect this world we're living in. What we do with our money has a tremendous impact on so many aspects.
I think of those food webs and in the more than human world, and when one species dies out, that impacts every other species. And the same is true in terms of climate change and all these other social justice issues that we care about.
Everything is connected. Everyone is connected.
We have a responsibility to others. We wouldn't want someone else destroying our earth that we're living in before we came along. Everything is connected. What we eat is connected to where food came from, who farmed it, how it got to us, how processed it was, how much water, how much fossil fuel was used to raise it.
Really important that there are people of all ages in this fight, because we need intergenerational collaboration to solve it. And it doesn't really matter what we've done in the past, but it's about what we can do together for the future.
We have to address the problem holistically and include everybody who's affected and everybody who contributes to the problem.
If we don't have good soil, we don't have good food with good nutrition.
The extremely damaging to the environment ways that we're doing agriculture are also exacerbating our racist system.
Decarbonizing energy, moving to renewable energy. We're talking about advocating at the local, state, national level. We're talking about the importance, the role of youth in climate change. We're talking about environmental justice. We're talking about anti-racism. We're talking about the personal spiritual journey. We're talking about the soil and the carbon. All these things have connections to each other.
We don't have generally accepted metrics for environmental impact, for social impact.
It's vital that we put, a price on carbon.
The next steps, absolutely necessary, are on us.
I have this dream of bringing the richness of Jewish tradition in regard to a world into the life of the Jewish community.
I would like to see the Jewish community really embrace the idea that this is really central to our identity and part of the work that we are all committed to.
We kicked the can down the road for so long, and this is the end of the road.
I envision a Shabbat service that has prayer for the earth.
When they're in their 20s and 30s, caught in wild weather and desperate for food, well, they glare at me and say, "Why didn't you do more?" What will I say?
I have visions of communities working together to get rid of their lawns and plant native habitats, to put solar panels on and to move to heat pumps and to advocate together for environmental justice and for earth justice and for sustainable world.
If you have or somebody who has a roof, it should get photovoltaics on it and you make money. And a heating system needs to change out to electric heat pump. If you drive a car, it needs to change to electric.
Downsize what you take from this earth. Consume less things, less energy.
Get involved in a local grassroots organization, have that mindset that we can make something happen, and then go out in the world and act on it and start making a difference tomorrow.
Find out who your legislator is at all levels and let them know climate and equity are your priorities, and you think about that when you go to vote.
Find ways to use less energy and to emit less carbon. Bring your neighbors and your friends and your community along on this journey. We need our government leaders to hear the message.
It's kind of like this idea of a minyan. You need 10 people for a prayer service. And when you have those 10 people, you say prayers that you don't say at other times. Something special happens that we can't really name and describe when those 10 people come together and put their hearts and souls into speaking to God. And when we come together in the community to do this work, something special happens that we can't put into words.
Because united, we can share this burden of fear and act together.
L'shem Yehud Kedusha Brihu Ushinte B'tchilu Rahimu L'yached Yudhe Vavhe L'shem Yehud Yisrael L'shem Shleimut Kol Ha'olam Kol Habriot.
Nishmat kol chai tivarechet shimcha, Adonai Eloheinu. The breath of all life praises your name, Adonai our God.
Everything is connected.
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 Everything, even everything we can't see, is connected.